Welcome to On the Precipice MUFON Contact Radio Program with your hosts, CJ Arabia and Richard Bansack, where discovery, disclosure, and evolvement meet. We are on the cusp of evolutionary realizations, technologies, and awareness. So come along and share in the adventure of discovery of who we really are and where we are going.
Well, here we
Hello.
2 weeks in a row, second show. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Here we are. I'm super excited that we're actually recording, Richard.
They let us back in the door.
They didn't kick us out. Yeah, after the last episode, Bill didn't delete our contact and block us. So he's not ghosting us. So I guess we can record again.
Well, I want to welcome everyone to On the Precipice MUFON Contact Radio Show. We're your hosts, CJ.
Yeah, CJ Arabia and Richard Bansack.
And this is our second episode of our new adventure. Thanks for being here with us on the journey. So I just want to make sure that everybody gets where we're at on the precipice, even though it was a beautiful entrance that Bill had. On the Precipice, MUFON Contact Radio will be where discovery, disclosure, and involvement meet. We are on the cusp of evolutionary realization, technologies, and awareness. So come along and share in the adventure of discovery of who we really are and where we're going. And hopefully in time, I won't have to,
people will be familiar with our brand. Yeah. They'll know.
Right. So one of the things I want to make sure that everybody knows before we get started, we have our guest. This is an evening with Preston Dennett.
Right.
And so this is our second episode. So I just want to let everybody sit back and after we do some of our own homework, show work and in-house business, we'll get to Preston. So
go big or go home, right?
So CJ, what's up?
Thank you. Well, thank you. Well, I'm super excited about Preston, obviously. And I went to the Yvonne Smith Ciro support group yesterday, and that was a great time talking with people. Wow. We talked about a variety of subjects, as we always do. And there was a presentation, as there often is. And I don't know, one of the topics people were kind of talking about was, how come we can be taken and the person next to us is just sound asleep, and I had raised my hand because I said, I have a tiny theory that I've thought, it may sound crazy, but, I watch the Can-Am missing and I've heard all of the theories that he presents about, the missing people in the national parks and the GHB levels in the bodies and stuff. And so I had been, Google detectiving it. And, the brain naturally produces GHB. It is a part of inducing deep sleep, REM sleep. And then I started Googling, how can you affect, and where is it created? And it's in the neurological center of the brain. What can that be affected by? It can be affected by, sound waves, electromagnetic pulses. So I was like, well, what if somehow, because we're talking about these technologies and stuff in the show, what if some non-human intelligence had a technology that could trigger that part of the brain that does overproduce the GHB, that puts the person next to you into a deep state of sleep or coma. And that's why people often say, I was calling my husband's name and he couldn't answer. And again, another theory we'll never be able to prove. But it's just fun going to those meetings, because those are the kind of conversations you have, is getting deep into what people are actually experiencing and what the people that are experiencing are really, thinking about and wondering about. And we did we were on the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance with Dan Harari. He's got the way cool, right? And there's a lot of members. You can check out the website if you want to see all the members, but he's also launched the Wow Signal news service, which is press releases and all UFO related news. And they were super nice and put out a press release for the start of our show, which I'll share on the SoCalMUFON.com website and on our Facebook and stuff like that, just kind of talking about the transition of the show to what's going on now. And I don't know, I'm going to save some of my stuff for later when we kind of do a wrap up. I've made a few notes, but I know we just really want to get to Preston and see what's going on with him.
You brought up a good point. And I think it goes to what the phenomenon is in terms of the abduction and why is people either awake and they don't hear anything, or why does it seem like they're in a comatose state or whatever. And maybe, and I'm sure Preston has a thought about this.
Yeah.
This whole idea of who we are consciously and our own energy and vibration, pretty much like we talked about with the ship zipping in and out, popping in and out, and different frequencies and vibrations.
The bending of time effect, almost that bending of time. Someone was asking me, just a neighbor who was reporting, he's like, what about the time thing? And I said, I know, I experienced that bending of time. I don't know what else to call it. What do you call it? I don't know.
It's funny that you say that, or even the idea, and even in the book Cemetery that Preston wrote, they talked about being taken out of the time effect and being in a different state, and then even putting them back, even though they were gone maybe 10 minutes or 4 hours, when they come back, it's like 10 minutes. So it's an amazing thing. So we should ask Preston about that.
Yeah.
So, hey, by the way, I appreciate you're going to put up the article. I wish we kind of printed it. I should have printed it and attached it because it would have been beautiful for everybody to see. So if you need to see it,
we can show it at the end. How about after Preston's done, you can do a screen share. So I'm having a little issues with the screen share.
No, I'll see if I can bring it up.
I'll send you a link in your email. You can open it up later. And at the end, you can show the article.
No problem.
Great.
Okay. Anything else before we get started in terms of news or information since our last and first episode?
Well, you've got our email address. We want to hear from you guys. And it's cjandrichard@gmail.com. Thank you, Bill Skywatcher, all over it. It's on the screen. We want to hear from you guys. I want to hear from experiencers. We were talking, you and I, earlier this week about, the armchair field investigators. Like, we were at home, and we're going to talk to you guys and give you guys some great tips on how to investigate your own UFO cases in the future and stuff like that. There you go. There's our article. So, and this will be, I don't know which day this one's going live, but by the time you hear this, we'll be in our second week.
And so, Bill, can you bring that back up, Bill? So that's us in the middle. Can you hit it? Will it bring it up, or can you tap it? I was wondering, because it did when I did, because CJ has it all there. And so this is a way cool article.
Yeah, we got a quote from Seb. We've got great, share it, like it, spread the word. If you like the podcast, spread the word.
Scroll down a little bit more. There you go. There's KGRA. I just wanted to make sure they got that in there because it was a very nice article that CJ wrote. I'm sorry, a press release that CJ wrote.
We all did it together as a
we did. It's a great job.
And it's so great that we have these kind of venues now. There was no news source. Nobody cared about UFO news 10 years ago. And now we've got the WOW signal, and you can sign up for the news alerts for free. There's always UFO news there. There's articles. I have a column there once a month too. And a lot of people have cool columns over there as well. So check it out if you haven't seen that website. But yeah, there you go, the WOW Signal News. And Dan's going to visit us in the future. He's a good friend. I do a lot of work with the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance and the WOW Signal News. And we're going to have Dan on in the future to give some news or send a recording and stuff. But he's just part of the family. We were all friends with Earl, really. I mean, all of us were. Dan was one of Earl's best friends too.
So just so everybody in the audience, especially those who are not familiar with it, can you just tell us about the Hollywood Alliance and who they are?
The Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. So yeah, Dan and Stephen Bassett started that as how can we get together? There's so many people in Hollywood that have had experiences, right? They know UFOs are real. They've worked on TV shows. Some of them are quiet, some of them are out there. And there's also a lot of people on the other side telling the stories, just telling people stories. And they wanted a way for these people to get together and be able to tell the stories more accurately, not the big, Independence Day kind of version of an alien, but to be able to connect storytellers and experiencers together to tell a more authentic and true storyline of ET or non-human contact sightings and all of that. So everyone's just kind of working together working on podcasts, working to make movies. I think the HDA, the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance movie is now, where did it go? I think it's on Amazon Prime, something like that now. But you can check the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance on Facebook if you want to see their news. But they did a documentary interviewing a lot of members. Earl was a member. And, it's just a lot of people who want the truth to get out there. They want to share their stories, and they want to share them accurately and not make some big jumbo movie that doesn't really, that makes people afraid or gives the wrong impression about what's really going on.
And at least explain and give something to the audience where they can look at it from a different perspective and see it hopefully more accurately than it is portrayed by many other folks. So
because it is really hard to find, they're like, I think some of the Betty and Barney Hill stuff was fairly accurate, but then you get to Fire in the Sky. And I know that they did a little Hollywood on that. So they changed the story in certain parts. It wasn't as accurate. And it's about trying to keep it more, these stories are amazing. We really don't need to make up details. You know what I mean? Like, they're already amazing. Let's just tell the stories as they are. And we don't need to add a flourish for Hollywood or to grab someone's attention,
And in terms of us just getting the information out of these different mediums that we use, whether it's TV, movies, documentaries, podcasts, books, or just these type of radio shows, it's just very important that, especially nowadays where we're getting more exposure and more people are interested, and not only that, the awareness is growing. So I'm really glad that we have these. So.
And that's what interests me, though, is telling the real stories. Like, I'm not really, I don't care. I mean, I do want people to watch the show and people to like it, but at the same time, I want the truth. I don't want to just like tell, I don't want the headlines of this and that. That's not real. There's a lot of, we get distracted. We get sent on these side paths, and I don't think it's on accident. We get on, it's like, go search this, go, and it's like, we need to, for me, at least, I'm always reevaluating and saying, okay, what am I looking at with the phenomenon in general? Like, is chasing that going to help me, And also I have to do my life, the aliens are not going to take my trash to the curb tonight. I have a kid who's 6, like, I'm a mom, I have a partner. And, I think a lot of it is finding that balance of pursuing all of this, studying the phenomenon, and then, balance of life as well. So,
right.
I don't know.
It's way cool. It's good to have relationships with those different medias and people, and they can contribute to what we were trying to do too. So
going to all these meetings, hearing the speakers, meeting people in person, and that's what's great about these organizations is they provide opportunities to meet other ufologists and experiencers and authors like Preston and all kinds of Stephen Bassett, like all these people. They're just people I see now at these places, and they're friends, and I can email them and ask them questions. And so obviously, we're going to benefit on this show from a lot of that. But yeah, join it, get involved. If you've seen a UFO and you're hiding in the outskirts, like I used to say I was just following the phenomenon. If you're just following the phenomenon, join some of these organizations, sign up for their emails, start reading, get active on the social media, whatever you're comfortable with, because you're just going to find a lot of camaraderie. People, you're going to be able to identify with a lot of experiences other people share, and you're not alone. Don't be alone just because you can't talk about it with your friends and your family. That's fine. There are people you can talk to about it, and they're going to also become sort of people that are close to you in a different way, like your chosen family, people say my space family, whatever. Sometimes it's silly, but it's true. Like, you kind of, like Earl would always say, my space brother. Like, I kind of have a space family. There's a lot of people in these support groups, and they're really, really supportive, nice people. And I don't know, that's what I mostly want to do with the show, is reach out to those people that are sitting in their houses, following the phenomenon, and say, come talk to us, like, join us, because we're waiting for you. There's more of you out there, a lot more.
Way cool. Okay, so I think the time has come that I want to make sure that we all are here, the evening with Preston Dennett. And I know that Bill was going to share the website up for us so that everybody can see his website. Actually, I think, now that I think about it, Bill, I remember that I was able to do what you did too. That's his website, and you can scroll down. It lists, oh my God, all of the different YouTube things that he's been on. Of course, there's been a bunch since. It mentions a number of books and articles that he's been involved in. And we're going to make sure that we include his website, his social media information, so that he can have it. But
Yes.
it's time for the man to come on and join us. So, Preston, where are you?
There he is.
There you are.
Hi.
Hi,
Way
Preston.
cool,
Thanks for
Preston.
joining us.
Hey,
So-
a pleasure and an honor. Thank you for having me.
All
I
right,
just
I
want
got
to
you.
tell everybody, welcome, Preston. I really appreciate you coming and sharing with us who you are and your experience. So thank you for coming and welcome today. On the same thing, I just want to tell everybody I met Preston through a case that I did for MUFON with a lady by the name of Susan Alloway Ware, and it's called the Jackrabbit case by my name, my term, because I wanted to give it a case. But actually, Preston and she contacted Preston first, who Preston also gave her a number of people to talk to. So maybe we can start there, and we're going to have Susan on later. And then if it's okay, just our contact. And then Preston knew Earl very well. And then we'll go into some of the other background areas. So if that's okay, Preston, tell us about Susan, tell us about your contact with her, and then let's lead into just your MUFON experience and background. Oh, you know what? Let's just have a little bit of a background about who you are.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I'll start with my background, I guess. I'm number 5 of 6 kids, and we have a big family. Moved to California. I thought we were all very skeptical of UFOs. Turns out that, yeah, most of my family was, but one evening, this is around 1978, thereabouts, I was 13, maybe 14 years old. My older brother, Mark, came running into the house and said he'd seen a UFO. Now, I didn't believe in UFOs, so I just kind of dismissed him until years later in 1986, November 17, you might recognize that date. November 17, 1986 was the day that Captain Kenju Tsuruochi of JAL Airlines saw a massive craft, he and his crew of their commercial Japanese airliner over Alaska. So I heard that on the news, and I thought, this pilot is crazy. You know, he is lying. He's seeing a reflection off the ice cap, which is such a ridiculous explanation if you look at the facts of this case, which they didn't really present in the news. You know, the news media does their best, I suppose, but the coverage was very brief, very tongue-in-cheek, and kind of joking. But it interested me enough to ask my brother again, Mark, what he'd seen. And he, in a nutshell, said he was driving down Reseda Boulevard in Southern California in the evening with his 2 friends and saw a metallic disc-shaped craft with lights on it, colored lights, a dome, silent, treetop level, chased it down Reseda Boulevard for about 15 minutes. And that just, as you can imagine, knocked me over. I knew my brother wasn't lying. I knew he wasn't misperceiving. There was really no other explanation other than it was true. And he could see me struggling with this. He's like, you need to talk to my friends, Phil and Greg. Those were his friends. I knew them. And I did. I called them up. They absolutely verified his story. And that's what opened the door for me. I started asking other people and found out that his girlfriend, soon to be wife, had also had a very interesting series of encounters as a young girl with little blue beings. Also, my other brother's girlfriend had a very close-up sighting of anomalous lights over Van Nuys Air Force Reserve Base, followed a few months later by a face-to-face encounter with gray ETs.
Oh,
So
wow.
this was really literally hitting home for me. I started buying books on this subject, found out I had a couple of close friends who had really dramatic sightings. Stupid me, I worked at a business office. I brought it up at work. The lady I'd worked with for quite some time, she and her whole family had seen UFOs. And in walks Dorothy, another coworker, hearing us talking about UFOs. And you'd love Dorothy. She's very outgoing, very transparent and honest. Says, oh, UFOs? One followed me home from the library. I'm like, really? She's like, yeah, it's weird. We live 5 minutes from the library. We left at 9 p.m., got home at 10:15. This object followed us over our car, and somehow we lost an hour of time. like, Dorothy, do you know what that means? Because I had just bought Missing Time by Bud Hopkins.
Oh, wow.
It's a good one.
So yeah, this was a difficult year of adjustment. And in 88, I joined MUFON. What a
Wow.
delight to find an organization that was actually taking this seriously. And it kind of just rolled out from there.
And when you joined it, in terms of just a member, or when did you become a field investigator? Or can you just give us some more information about that?
Yeah, almost immediately. First thing I did was, I'm like, you know what? I want all your journals going back to when it started. That's how dead set I was on this. I was buying every book. I joined every UFO group I could find. But MUFON met monthly, not far from where I lived, in a little bank. There was just one room in the back that they opened up, and there was maybe 10 people there, 15 on a good night. So it wasn't super popular at that time, which really astonished me, because this was a subject that was obviously important. There was clearly a cover-up that's demonstrable. So, and it wasn't being taught in schools. It wasn't being taken seriously in the media. It was all really baffling to me. And when I found out that they offered a field investigator position, I'm like, I'm all in. Now, back then, they basically just handed you the test. So by then I'd already had some experience interviewing people and such, but the test was take home. I think 200 questions, 100, 200 questions.
Yeah.
I thought, well, this will be easy. It's a take home test. How hard could it be? It was very difficult, actually.
It still is.
Yeah. There was a section on UFO history, which I breezed through and aced. I mean, that was easy because, I was so interested in the subject. And I had all the books at this point. But of course, as you know, I'm sure, a section on photography, astronomy, meteorology, and so forth. I was going to college at that time and taking a lot of science classes, which helped. But I did really well. I missed only 2 questions and started to get referred cases, and just a wonderful period of time in my life after I kind of got adjusted to the fact that all of this was actually going on, which wasn't easy. That was a very difficult time, actually. But yeah.
And what time frame is this? What years is this? The 90, 89?
1986 late is when I found out this was real. Spent 1987 losing my mind, buying every book I can.
Sure.
In 1988, I calmed down a little bit. I'm like, okay, this is important. I really need to look into it. And joined, that's when I became a field investigator and joined MUFON. And from that point on, I just dove into research headlong for 10 years, really digging deep, writing articles, and put out my first book in 1996 called UFO Healings, 100 Cases. And kind of just haven't looked back from there.
So this actually was your turning point in your life. It had that much of an impact on you.
Oh, yeah. Never, I was a pretty shy guy.
Right.
I have no desire to be in the spotlight. It was like, I was in the outskirts, CJ, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to be known.
Right.
But this subject I just felt was so important. It hit me so hard. And talking to these people who were having experiences, just like you said, CJ, they weren't telling even their spouse, their family.
Right.
It's really interesting to see because they tearfully tell me, I have no history of mental illness in my family. I've got a good job. I'm college educated. They're really struggling to deal with these events that are completely out of their belief system and worldview.
Yeah, I remember reading, and I think it was in one of your books or maybe one of the podcasts. So you actually did a number of cases that you went out in the field and did field work. Do you remember doing that, saying that, or can you give us some examples of that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think armchair research is crucial and important for every investigator. But ultimately, it's boots on the ground and going out there. That's where the fun is, and interviewing people face to face at the actual encounter location.
Right.
So I did that. I mean, I've pretty much always done that.
Right.
But gosh, it's several hundred cases at this point.
So how many? That's what I was going to ask. How many?
Yeah, I haven't actually counted them because it's difficult because I've talked to 1,000 people probably about their encounters, but in terms of
Wow.
like a really deep official investigation,
Right.
it's a few hundred at least.
Right.
And initially, if you saw an anomalous light at night for 3 seconds, I'd sit down with an hour.
Right. Sure.
That's what when I first the joke my husband had for me when I first started MUFON is CJ, no dot is too small.
It's true. I think every single case has something to offer in terms of our understanding of what's going on here.
And the potential. So for me, for the potential, remember, everybody always talks about, well, just one case that is actually what it's supposed to be can change everything. And we all know in this field, there's not just one case. There's many, many cases. There's many, many examples. But I just want to tell you a story. I've just finished up a case 3 days ago, and I actually went out in the field to go to the location where the person filmed what they filmed, just so that I could orient it to it during the day, so that I could see there was nothing behind them. There was no lights that were affecting it. Could they have seen what they did? They also had a video, and but it was just doing that added another dimension, and I like it too. So it's just one of the things that I like about doing the cases. And the other part that's even more significant is, and I'm sure that you found out all those books that you wrote, I just like talking to folks. I like hearing their stories. I like trying to understand and give my own self a perception to try to see what they're seeing, try to recreate what they're recreating. And so I had a good time doing it, and I closed the case. Ended up being a Starlink train that had just recently launched, and she caught the bottom of it. But that's not the point. She was excited. I got excited. I wanted to verify it. And good. It's okay that it's sort of benign and prosaic, but that's also a part of the investigative task.
100%. It's thrilling.
Everyone has to do a Starlink.
Yeah, I remember I was doing a very early interview where people, they called me, and they lived not far from my home, and said that they were seeing UFOs on a nightly basis, which was kind of a red flag, because I'm like, that's pretty unusual.
Yeah.
And I went over there and I talked to them, and I knew the area quite well. I knew there was a flight path in the general area where they were describing. So I ended up walking a mile up the road above their house, and of course seeing the planes from LAX coming in. Now, it looks really startling when these jets are coming directly towards you, because you don't see the wing lights, or the conventional lights. It's just one big blaze. And after watching it, I realized this is what they were seeing. Went back down and told them, and urged them, of course, to come up and follow me. And they didn't want to do that. They were pretty upset with me. They really kind of stuck to their guns of like, this is unexplained. And so that was difficult. Sometimes this investigating can be a little difficult.
True.
But it is so much fun. I mean, probably my biggest investigation way back then was in 1992 to 94, when there was a wave of sightings over Topanga Canyon. And I called up the police, told them I'm a MUFON field investigator, gave them my number, and they were referring cases to me. I was basically going door to door. I was putting up flyers. I cold called from the phone book people in this area, because it was a very specific area.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going all in on this.
Yeah, detective work, real detective work.
That's the fun part.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's
the
amazing.
People that you meet, the places that you go, the things that you see, it just comes to life. It's not just like reading it or doing it online, which is a good thing too, because it's opened up a lot. But going out, talking to folks, going to areas, and looking for yourself is probably one of the best and funnest things. Are you able to even do that nowadays, or you have so many other things that you're doing? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I've got a lot going on right now.
Right.
I remember in that particular investigation, I had a few phone calls from the police that were on one night. And I started reaching out feelers, because I know people in that area. It's where I grew up. And I immediately got a case, which was on that same night. And one by one, I started getting more people in different locations who were seeing stuff on that same night. And what a thrill it is when you get that kind of corroboration. People seeing the same sort of things, different pieces of it. You start to build a picture of like what actually happened.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what I love about investigating is when you get corroboration. Like, whoa,
Yeah.
someone else saw it. This is fantastic.
And then it also leads you down rabbit holes. You ask somebody, oh, yeah, I remember when I was younger, my dad said he saw it. And all of a sudden, it just like spreads out. It just mushrooms or branches out, and you actually get more information and are able to, do additional cases and stuff. But
Right.
just
I
a
learned a
fun
lot.
thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
learned how to-
imagine in all your books. So I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Because I can't find the number. How many, and so I just want to make sure that everybody understands this. How many books have you authored? I got 30. This is just an example of some of them. But Preston, do you sleep? Do you do anything else? Because the next question is all those articles that you've written in all kinds of magazines and
The
publications.
podcast like this.
The podcast. But tell us about your books and how many, and then some of the articles and some of the ones that you just are very proud of. I know you're proud of all of them. But just,
Yeah.
just to
It's
get
funny,
a sense.
people have accused me of having a secret identical twin. No,
Oh,
it's just me doing this.
Oh,
And
I
mind
don't
you,
know how you do it.
working full time most of my life. So
Right.
Oh man.
It
I know
definitely
you got to. Who's gonna pay your
Right.
bills? They're not
this
paying the
subject.
bills. Yeah, like
No.
you gotta work. That's what people don't understand is you
People are like, 30 books, you must be rich. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
no, not
Yeah.
really.
How
The
many
actual
books?
number is 32. I used to put down the number in my bio, but I kept having to update it. So I'm like, you know what?
Right.
It's 32. I've got
30-ish.
4 right now in the works. I
Wow.
absolutely love doing this. It does cut into my TV time. But if you're dedicated to anything, you can get it done. And I
Right.
so love doing it. So it's really not work.
Right.
No,
but-
and you have such a gift, Preston, of telling like very complicated, well, I guess I don't know if that's the right word, but stories that have a lot of details and details that are contrary to reality, details that might drive certain people crazy, but you tell these stories in such a way that it makes sense, like, to just like the average person. Like I would say, if you're just, even if nothing's ever happened to you personally and you're just interested in what's happening to other people, just pick one of, like, I don't know why I picked Onboard Encounters, but
It's my best-selling one.
is it?
that's
Well, I
good,
think
yeah.
someone mentioned that, and that's why I was like, well, I'll read that then.
Yeah. Well, you
And-
said
and-
something earlier, CJ, which I thought was so important, is why sensationalize these accounts? The
Right.
facts alone are absolutely astounding. There's no need to do that.
Yeah, there's just no need. Yeah.
So that's why I really kind of stuck to that, doing a very facts-only, objective presentation, and try to make it very approachable, very readable
It
to people.
is. It's a
and
gift,
not-
though. Everyone can do it. It's a real gift that you have for doing that.
Well, I noticed right off the bat, the media was kind of fear-based, which I get, fear sells.
It's scary though too, for
Right.
people who've not had an experience or don't remember or have had weird things and they don't know how to put it together, and you're like, what's happening? And there's so many conspiracies and
Exactly.
people sharing their personal opinions as if it's fact. And
Thank
you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I would just say I'm like Mulder. I trust no one. I follow what works for me personally. And then I also have to remember that just because I can't experience everything. Just because you've gone snorkeling doesn't mean you've seen every fish in the sea. So like I can't say that just because I've had experiences, and even some stuff my mom told me as a child, I was like, well, she's crazy, but what happened to me is, and it's just hard to fight that inner part of you.
As a skeptic, I was so sure I was right. What a shock. It's funny, but my first book is probably one of my favorite, because I was going to write an article. I had interviewed this lady who had a healing event. She had a cyst in her fallopian tube and was visited by ETs, and they basically removed it. She went to the doctor next day and they were so confused, like really puzzled as to what happened to her cyst.
Yeah.
I thought, well, isn't this interesting? Because Jacques Vallée had a case of a medical doctor. You may have heard of this one where he was healed of partial paralysis and a gash on his ankle. Ralph and Judy Bloom presented a case of a Peruvian customs official who was struck by a beam of light, cured of rheumatism and nearsightedness. Another really famous case that I like a lot. Involved 2 police officers, Deputy McCoy and Patrolman Robert Good, I think were their names, in Damon, Texas, who in 1956, I believe it was, thereabout, were called to investigate a UFO sighting, I believe, and saw this giant craft. It sent down a beam of light. Well, one of the officers had a cut on his finger from a baby pet alligator, and this beam hit him, and it basically cured this flesh wound.
Right.
So I'm thinking, this would be a good article. This is going to be interesting. There's not a lot of information out there about this. And I started, perusing the literature.
Right.
And I got a huge shock because I found like 10 cases, then 20, then 30.
Right.
I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to dive deep into this. And I found 100 cases, which became my first book. And it really kind of shifted the way I was viewing things when I realized, and I can say this with absolute certainty, that healing is a big part of the onboard experience. Because pretty much every major researcher out there who really focuses on multiple onboard cases has these healings. I cornered Bud Hopkins once because he never wrote about it. I'm like, he's got to have these cases. He's like, oh yeah, we do. They're very encouraging. I'm quite happy about it because, it does show a positive side. David Jacobs, who, takes a somewhat dim view of all of this, has multiple cases.
I think it's his natural state, but yes, you know what I mean? Like some people have different dispositions.
But John Mack, of course, Barbara Lamb, Edith Fiore, Yvonne Smith, Tim Beckley, Brad Steiger, Timothy Good. I could go on and on. Ray Hernandez. All of them have healing cases.
Right.
So that was a big wake-up call for me. I'm like, okay, this is being misrepresented in the media, who wasn't talking about that at all.
Right. Just to take aside, one of the ways in how I first was able to investigate your stuff and do some research on you was the Susan case. And then the book that you wrote that you included her case story in is probably one of my favorite books, Humanoids and High Strangeness. And there's a lot of things in there that you talk about. So I was just curious, just as a side track. So tell us about your contact and how you first met Susan and how that whole thing led to you writing about her encounter.
Yeah, Susan is a lovely woman who clearly had an experience that affected her so profoundly, as almost they always do. But she reached out to me after, I think, watching some of my videos, and we just started talking. It's always my first priority to just provide a listening ear, answer people's questions, because often that's all they really want. They just want someone to take their story seriously. They have questions. They really just want to sort of bounce some ideas off of you. So that's always been my number one goal, really, is just to provide a resource for people. So many people, so many, far more than most people know, are having these experiences. So we got to talking. We really hit it off. Her experience was so extensive. And I was basically just helping her through it. And, I asked her, how did she feel about sharing the story? Because she really wanted to. Her story is filled with synchronicities. She basically was not talking about it, not thinking about it. One day she decided, you know what, it's time to go forward. I really want to tell my story. And that's when she got on the computer, and what pops up? But this brand new movie put out by, what was
John Yost.
John Yost. God bless him. Wonderful man.
God bless him. Yeah.
He passed on not too long ago, but
yeah, he did.
That movie just came out, Alien Abduction
It was on that day that she was looking for it.
How about that? Yeah. And I liked that documentary because it was very objective. It let the experiencers talk.
Right.
And that's what I love to see. So many other documentaries are, like you said, stating opinions as fact and speculating wildly.
So many. Like, I wish people would just say it's my belief or it's my opinion, but people act like they know everything. And you know what? Anyone pretending they know this phenomenon, I would approach with caution.
But this movie was John's passion because of his own life and it was just an incredible movie. I'm sorry, go ahead. You were saying about Susan.
Yeah, well, it was very well done. And I also, of course, contacted Debs Shakti and spoke with her, who helped Susan out a lot. It was very cool to connect with you as well.
Right. Yeah.
And so she had a whole team helping her out through this. And she eventually contacted her friend who was there with her, which was a big, big step for her, because you never know. She basically lost contact with, I think her name was Karen.
Yes, it was Karen. Yeah.
So,
That was one of the things she got out of it. I mean, it was just amazing. Anyway.
Yeah, really.
So she went through the
long journey for her.
Yeah, because you led her to Debs Shakti, which hopefully we're going to be able to have her on very soon to the show that she wants to be a part of. But you connected her to that, and that just opened a lot of doors, obviously, and memories. And so go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a blessing to be able to help people. That's the best part of doing this research.
Right.
I've got so many of these people who've become such dear friends, and I count Susan among them. She's just
so
a wonderfully
sweet.
Positive person who lets love and compassion basically guide her actions, which I think is so important.
Yeah.
And I'm just honored to be a part of it. It's funny, I asked her if she would consider allowing me to include her story in my book. She was delighted. And I sent her the chapter to make sure that everything was perfectly accurate.
I like about you. You send them the chapter, make sure that they are okay with it and there's no issue. So I really like that, admire that about you.
Yeah. And we went over it line by line. And I'm like, this is your story, and she, really contributed quite a bit to it. Right. Some people just say, oh yeah, it's pretty much accurate. I've got three boys, not two, or, this event was before that one.
Right.
These little details are important because skeptics or debunkers, I should say, will come back and say, well, you changed your story, or this one detail isn't correct.
Yep.
Which is as if it invalidates the whole story.
I know. They're like lawyers. They're like just looking for anything.
But you wanted to maintain the veracity of the work that you do. And the people involved, especially the experiencer, it's their story. And they're the ones who are telling it. If they allow us to share it or to report it, we should do as much as we can to make sure that we're right where we're at in terms of the accuracy of it. So I really respect that about your work.
Yeah, it says a lot about you that you've written this many books, these many experiences. And I'll tell you, I've never heard one person go, well, I don't know, you kind of screwed up my story, or I kind of got screwed. I've no what I mean? Usually someone sharing this many stories or making a TV show, everyone's got a gripe or a complaint about it. I've never heard that about you ever.
Yeah, I did have one guy, after I finished that book, Humanoids and High Strangeness, contact me and said, you know what, I'm not ready, pull my chapter, which I totally understand.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's not a problem.
Yeah.
So just for everybody, it's again, Humanoids and High Strangeness, chapter 19 is Susan's. It's a really good book, 20 chapters, right? If I'm not 20 chapters, 20 stories, exactly what CJ said. Everyday folks experiencing these things that they don't understand, and then Preston investigating it and getting out to people all over the world, just like Whitley did with communion. One of the things Whitley did with communion, he gave people a picture. He gave people a voice. He gave people the ability to come out and speak about it. I remember they sent all those letters and all their own stories that he collated with his wife, ultimately furthering research. And actually one of the books, Them, which is a great book, he was able to extrapolate what he thinks them are saying. So it's just very important, people like you, authors who do works like this and who are accurate the way they are, to do these things for people, everyday folks. So I would just encourage everybody. It's a very good book, my first and very favorite book that you wrote. So.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I really tried to embrace the whole contact experience because it's not a singular event in a person's life.
No.
There's different paranormal aspects that are definitely connected to it. And I know for a fact some researchers are very nuts and bolts in their thinking and don't want to add this, some of the high strangeness aspects. And I'm so glad I did.
Right.
For example, there was one guy I wrote about from Texas who would wake up and he would be all wrapped up tightly in his quilt, his bed sheets, like a a Tootsie Roll or something.
Burrito.
And I'm like, this is so strange.
Yeah.
And it's funny, another guy that I had interviewed in that book called me back. He's like, I'm so sorry I didn't tell you that. I didn't even think of it. But that exactly happened to me.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
these are this is why it's so important to include everything, because other people are going through this.
Right.
It helps people identify into the phenomenon when they read these stories, at least for me too, because I was like, oh, I would have never thought. And now that reminds me of this other thing that happened to me that I would, because, we compartmentalize this weird thing happened. And I saw that UFO that hovered 20 feet over my head. And then this other thing, and at least for me, I didn't put all this stuff together, but reading these books helps me do it. And then, as we share our stories with other people, it helps other people identify in. So,
Whitley, boy, his book woke up so many people. I can't tell you how many people have told me, as soon as I saw that cover, I nearly fainted. I remember my dad actually bought it for me.
Really?
Which is so funny because he hates this subject.
Right.
Hated it to the day he died, which is kind of a red flag for me.
Yeah,
Why are you so repulsed by this?
Yeah.
Whenever anyone has a very strong emotional reaction to the subject,
right?
We know it follows generations, and certainly in my family.
Right. Yeah,
I always did. When I was younger, I didn't want to see a picture of an alien. Like, I remember thinking, like, you'd see people at a convention with like a stuffed alien. I'm like, why would you ever want that in your home? That's how I felt, like I don't want to look at him. Like, when I was at the grocery store as a kid, I'd take communion and flip it backwards, so I didn't have to look at the picture in the checkout line.
It's funny how people I've had like 3 or 4 people tell me that they had Muppet nightmares. I'm like, what do you mean? Because the Muppets had their big staring eyes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. There's a strong fear reaction, I think, as a young person.
Yeah. Sure. Well, actually, big eyes are scary.
The little kids actually are pretty good with it. It's the adults usually who are have a hard time with it. But I can tell you that most of the people I've interviewed, after they've had a few encounters, really won't use the word abduction. They prefer onboard experience, contactee, something like that. That's more neutral.
Right.
Feel ultimately it's a positive experience for them. A mixed bag in the beginning, for sure, but they would never.
I think they're actually, like you said, they become aware, and that awareness sort of forces them, or maybe it's their own desire to expand their own thoughts and ideas, and then they begin to look at things different. They begin to sense things different. Maybe they're looking at it for a positive reinforcement as it relates to them and what is happening to them. So I just think that that's the most important thing that you do about your books that you write. You write about people, everyday people from all over the world, which I think is cool, Central, South America, everywhere. But you tell their story and how they've gone through what they've gone through, and then just the agony and the weirdness and my craziness and all the different things that are going on. And it gives those people, in my opinion, hope in the fact that, they're not going crazy and there is something to what's happening. What it is, we're all trying to figure that out. What it means, we're all trying to figure that out. But this is just another way of giving somebody a tool that they can use to help their own self and their own life and their own evolution and evolvement. So I just like that. I think it's cool.
I'm my personal assessment is we're dealing with extraterrestrials, plain and simple, in the classic sense. People from other planets, very much like us. Right. I know there's all manners of wild speculative theories out there. Jacques Vallée has a very interesting, highly speculative, unsupported theory, which I don't subscribe to.
Yeah.
Oh, Preston lost the power and he's out.
He'll be back in just a second, but
we'll just have to splice it back together.
He brought up a very good point. Do you remember you sending out that thing here recently? I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago about Jacques Vallée's.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that podcast as he really broke it down, because I've had a lot of the same questions that guy has. Like, I've read some of Jacques Vallée's books, and I just like the way he broke it down and made more sense to me.
And, he, being a European, obviously from France, and just the whole experience about how the ages, the Middle Earth, castles and kings and
Sure.
goblins and fairies and gnomes and leprechauns, and just the whole way it was interpreted during the Middle Ages. And, but the thing I particularly like about Jacques, he said in a few of his books, he would be disappointed if it was just about nuts and bolts and technology.
Sure.
He was more interested, I believe this is what he was saying from my own interpretation, he was more interested in the idea that it had a much more significant meaning, whether it's a consciousness thing, whether it's a spiritual thing, whether it's a whatever thing it is. And so that's why
I like Jacques' theories personally. I mean, they're, and I think you need to be open to all the theories, to be honest, but I don't, I don't subscribe to they're all friendly. They're all here for our betterment. I don't know, but a lot of what Jacques says makes a lot of sense to me, and also kind of works into that, the Bible and flying saucers and all that, the spiritual element. They've been here for a long time, guiding and shepherding us for whatever reason, before Jesus even, you had Abraham, Isaac, there's all these people shepherding us and guiding us and giving us rules, how to keep the flock in, you know what I mean? Like I was thinking like the 10 Commandments are really a way to keep your flock in order, to keep them from fighting. But I don't know. I'm open to it. I'm fascinated by, all the different, hey, Preston, how's it going?
Yeah, just a lightning strike is all.
Is that what that was? Yeah.
That was significant. We were talking about Jacques Vallée and just his philosophy, and I know you were at the point to bring you right back in that you not necessarily agree with him, so go ahead with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a fabulous researcher and a huge asset to this field, of course. I've got all his books, and so I don't want to get the wrong idea here.
Right.
And I do think that he has stated clearly on numerous occasions that there probably are extraterrestrials out there and are responsible for some of this. But he put forth this theory that basically says it could be something else masquerading as ETs, due to the fact that there's far too many of these accounts to explain as simply a survey, which is kind of weirdly speculative to me, or that very unlikely that they would be humanoid in form, which I kind of always thought as a skeptic is true, but again, very speculative. And the fact is they are humanoid in form.
Yeah.
No, they are.
He's a scientist too. He's a scientist too. Yeah.
He is. Yeah. I mean, I had this thought walking the other day because I was thinking that same thing. Like if life could take any form, what are the odds? But then at the same time, this shape functions very well. It walks, it moves, it picks things up. It has, these hands work very good. And at the same time, part of me thought, why wouldn't there be many other?
Well, contactees have asked about this or been told, and have been told flat out. This is what I like about this, is because it's not speculative. This is actual fact. Could be, it is kind of third hand, I guess, because I didn't hear this, but people I've talked to have been told this by the ETs, that we share a common heritage.
Yeah.
That we share ancestry. That the ETs will tell people, we are you. You are us. We are one. Some variation of that.
And the generational aspect comes back in, the genetics, you know what I mean? Like we share some sort of genetics possibly with them. Very possible.
I think the evidence speaks clearly we're dealing with ETs.
Well, the other thing too, and this is just my thought, if, and it's an if, and I believe it, the physical world or this dimension or this quantum, whatever you want to call it, is created through our energy and through our manifestation about what we're trying to express, then the idea that we have any kind of clue about what life really looks like or what it expresses itself, I would like to believe with our ability that there's all kinds of life, just like, again, and I want to make sure that I get there, and I'm not going to say this too much, but even in your book, which we're going to talk a little bit about a lot when we get into the question, symmetry, and many other people, Flight of the Navigator is a good example in terms of a movie. Everything is alive. Everything is alive to some extent. It has energy. It has all the aspects of intelligence and development. And I think Preston just went out again.
Yeah, another lightning strike, possibly.
I like the blue.
And we have to go to a commercial break too. So why don't we go ahead and do you have something you were wrapping up there, Richard?
No, I was just trying to say that I would never ever want to say again in a box that this is everything that it could be, wouldn't be, shouldn't be. I can't understand that it could be. If it's created by our energy and our focus and our consciousness, it can be anything and everything. Bipedal, there could be all kinds of bipedal humanoids in this sector. In other sectors, it could be insectoids. In other sectors, it could be plants. In other sectors, it could be whatever you want to call it. All of it's alive. All of it has intelligence, and all of it is a part of who we are. Not only that, think about this. That is not even probably really who we are anyway. This is just a manifestation. This is just a mirror, a reflection of who we are, what we're seeing right now. Who we are is more spiritual and much more deeper than that.
That's okay. Why don't we, Bill, let's go to break. Throw us into break and we'll talk to Preston.
Hold on to your seats, Cosmic Explorers. KGRA Digital Broadcasting, the unrivaled #1 source for raw, uncensored paranormal and UFO talk radio, has just unleashed a sizzling online merch store. Stay cosmic on the move with accessories, rugged phone cases, vibrant yoga mats, and notebooks perfect for jotting down UFO sightings. Ignite your obsession with the unexplained through bold, exclusive gear that demands attention. Kicking off with the Supernova, the store launches 2 heart-pounding collections, KGRA Digital Broadcasting and Bishop James Long. Every item you grab helps power the network and its groundbreaking shows. Stand with the truth seekers, act fast, score your stellar swag, and join the uprising today.
So you don't care about his life. You just care about covering up your little top secret stuff going on. Meanwhile, this man's dying. How dare you put these people in the military to defend us, and then when they come out, you just kick them to the curb.
As UFO reports come in from around the world, the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, is there. We continue to explore new cases and build our massive database. We share our information with the world in a number of ways. If you would like to be part of our investigative team, you are always welcome. What could be more exciting than exploring the UFO question firsthand? Join MUFON, find your friends.
Do you have a lightning rod on the roof of your house is my first question.
Yeah. We have real bad storms right now, so sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I love a storm. I love
Holy
them.
moly.
I'm from Southern California, so I love my sister in Des Moines and my brother in Ohio giving me their the people who have real weather reports.
Yeah, I'm actually on the East Coast, so.
Love it.
I miss California, those sunny skies, but
They're
I do
fun,
like the
but
rain.
I know, and the East Coast fun. You got the fall. My partner's from the Hudson Valley area in New York City, so we spend a lot of time out there. Great. Oh, I was like, are you getting one of those alerts? You know, you get those.
I was at Preston's recording. He says he's not busy. He's busy right now. So hey, let's get back to what we were talking about. I know you said Jacques Vallée, but I'd like to go on another direction. So one of the second book that I read that was yours was something that I personally I'm interested in. So I would like your thoughts on it. So Out of Body Exploring, you wrote A Beginner's Approach. So tell us about that and what made you do that, and tell us about your experience with that. I'm just curious real quick because I thought it was really cool. This is about you. This is about who you are, what you're trying to do. It goes into, CJ, what we were talking about. I believe, not whether Jacques Vallée believes it or others will believe it, it's a consciousness, it's a spiritual realm, it's an energy or whatever. So Preston, take it away.
Yeah, I started having astral projection experiences. I will say I pursued them vigorously. This was around the same time I started doing UFO research and actually having some personal experiences with UFOs and such, which, you know, I always thought was kind of coincidental, synchronistic. Now I think there's a connection because definitely a lot of contactees describe these kinds of experiences. And it definitely happened to me. I read Robert Monroe's book, Journeys Out of the Body. He gave exercises on how to do it. And I'm the kind of researcher who, you know, it's fun to talk to people, but I'd like to try it. You know, I went out there in the fields hunting UFOs and I saw them. And I've had some really profound encounters. So it was kind of the same with this. That book is the only autobiographical book I've written. And I really put myself out there with it. But I thought these experiences were so life-changing and so wonderful that I really want other people to try it. Don't believe me. You know, it's hard to convince people you're having astral projection experiences, which is 100% fine. But I dare you to try it and you can see for yourself.
Yeah, and maybe the word sometimes, you know, like astral projection. Like I know I grew up in a very like Catholic-y family, so those kind of words would have been like, oh, I can't, but like an out of body. But the truth is I had them. Like I told Earl, I said, I have some memories where I'm watching from the corner of the wall, like a near death experience from like an elementary school. So something about me, I don't know why I have these memories, but I could pop out and just suddenly be like, what, like, why am I watching from the corner of the room? But I didn't know what they were. You know, sometimes you're, you know, for the layman or whatever, you might just have memories of watching yourself do something. And why do you have this?
Well, most people will have one or two of these experiences. Most people will report this. I really pursued it, got pretty good at it. It was very difficult at first, but we all have a dream body, an astral body, a soul, call it what you will. We go to the other side. I think the evidence of life after death is outstanding. And you can prove it to yourself by doing this and visit deceased loved ones. Go to the other side. You know, meet spirit guides and enlightened masters, or go to the Akashic plane, learn about past lives. The stuff you can do is off the charts. Amazing. That's why I wrote that book.
And this is not fantasy. This is actually your account of your experiences. And again, I was completely floored because the only other book that I read that was like this, that had this kind of detail and went to this extent, was Robert Monroe's book. And he wrote a couple that were extremely good books. But the idea, and this is my contention, and this is the reason why I bring it up, when we talk about the other aspects of who we are, and I use the word aspects loosely, we're talking about the spiritual aspects, the energy aspects, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people will sit there daydream and they'll go off someplace whether they're familiar with or they'll encounter something. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about accessing your own world, not some other person's world. This is, when you wrote this and the things that you wrote in here that was important to me, you were experiencing you. You were experiencing you in this aspect, this whatever realm, this out-of-body experience, or, you know, some people have had it with near-death experiences. Some people get it with meditation.
I feel like remote viewing as well. Like I've done some remote viewing and it's the same
It is.
late.
You're accessing that consciousness, in my opinion, or that door or that window. You know, I just found that in this particular case, you really opened up to what you were experiencing. Now, do you still do this, or do you still practice it, or what are you doing with it today?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's all kinds of fun. It is objectively real. And Robert Monroe was able to appear as an apparition in front of other people.
He was.
I've never been able to do that, but I, do know people who have, and I've met people out of body and come back and confirmed. So this is objectively real.
One of the ones that I remember the house of the old man and the guy who lived in the old house, the dentist, I guess he was, or what was that? I think that was yours, wasn't it? I'm not really sure if that was your book or maybe that was another book. But I remember the apparition appeared to him when he was in the state that he was in. And then when he saw it in real life, it was exactly what had appeared to him. So it sort of confirmed or validated that he was able to go, or whoever it is, he was able to go to a place and see. It's like reading a headlines or reading an address or going into somebody's place or your mom's house, and you're looking over her shoulder. She happens to be reading a line from a book, and then you tell her later, Mom, it's the same thing with near-death experiences.
Yeah, that was my first goal. I'm like, I need to figure out
so you were able
real.
to. So that was the one thing that you did with this book that was impressive to me. Just like Robert did, you wanted to validate your experience. You didn't want it to be, albeit dreams are good, I guess, if they're just nebulous and they don't have any structure or meaning. But this stuff that you were experiencing had structure, had meaning. And just like a lot of people who get involved in it, you want to validate it for many reasons. If you've tapped into something that's another level about who you are, then that means the whole who we are goes, it's just infinite.
In my opinion, it's a natural human talent that anyone can do with a little effort.
Right. And the idea that we've turned those things down as a society because you're not supposed to, remember? You're not supposed to go in. You're supposed to focus on what's outside and listen to the things that are outside and be guided and controlled by outside, when in actuality, the way that we get to who we are is to go inside, is to explore who we are in its many different forms, not just physically. So that's the one thing that I really, really like about this book, Out of Body Exploring, a Beginner's Approach, that you wrote. When did you write this?
Oh gosh, that was, I think, came out in the year 2001. Yeah,
it's one of your older books. So I just really.
I'm working on a sequel because I've had a lot of experiences since then.
And you said that in this book, by the way. You said, I'm going to do a sequel to this, and you said, I'm still going to be working on it. So you need to do a follow-up on that. Really cool stuff.
Yeah, I've had so many amazing experiences since then.
Well, we've talked about a lot of things. I would like to go into our question and answer segment if you're up to that. Are you up to that?
Certainly, yeah.
What I did is I wrote a number of questions and just things that not only that CJ and I are talking about, just things that I'm curious about. And so it's always good to have somebody who has your kind of experience, your research, your own knowledge, just to get your take on it. So you already told us about your MUFON experience and your field investigator experience. Do you know anything about the ERT team that MUFON has?
Well, I'm certainly aware of it. Yeah, I haven't, I'm not a part of it per se, but yeah, I know of it.
Right. Okay. And are you still involved with MUFON directly or indirectly, or is it just something you've always supported it, but it's been a while that you've been a part of it?
I don't actively investigate for MUFON currently. Right. I do support them. I still subscribe to the monthly newsletter and speak at local MUFON groups, and a couple of times for MUFON Central. I like MUFON because there's so many good people in there who are really searching for the truth. Some who have some pretty good knowledge base in terms of, a degree in science, say, whether it's astronomy or psychology or what have you.
A retired police captain like Richard. I mean, we got a lot of really qualified folks working at MUFON, volunteering at MUFON.
And it adheres to the scientific method. And it really tries to look at it, like you said, from a fact base as much as that's possible, a way of investigating things. So, and it's good that they collate it and that they are able to provide a number of statistics or information, because like anything that we're all aware of, that the more facts or more information that you have, you can begin to resonate a picture or maybe a theme or an idea about either the phenomenon or where it's at, or is it accurate, compare and contrast what we think are maybe just prosaic things as opposed to something that's truly anomalous. So that's the one thing I like about it too. So having said MUFON, so tell us, if you don't mind, who your favorite ufologists are, besides yourself.
Besides me and Richard and you.
Right. So tell us, give us some people that you really seriously think you want people to know.
Well, I've definitely got some heroes who have passed on, like James McDonald. Absolutely loved his work. Leo Sprinkle, Ann Druffel was amazing. Jim and Cora Lorenzen are true heroes.
Yes.
God bless Donald Kehoe.
Yeah.
Donald Kehoe single-handedly was fighting against the UFO cover-up. Gotta love Jalen Hynek. Currently, I love Linda Zimmerman. I think she's doing really good work. Barbara Lamb, Yvonne Smith, Michael Schratt. He is so knowledgeable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. I love him because he's very fact-based. Yeah. There's a lot of good researchers out there, and there's some who I would put in quotes, like, because I feel like, we are battling a UFO cover-up. This is not a joke.
No, yeah.
This is there's disinformation being inserted into this field.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that as we go. So tell me, besides your own podcast, can you tell us what it is? What are some of your favorite current podcasts?
Yeah, my own podcast. Well, I have a YouTube channel, UFOs and the Paranormal. I put out my research. I also do a monthly live podcast with contactee Dolly Safran, who I wrote a full-length book about. Love her to death. She's amazing. It's called The Light Gate.
I saw that on your Facebook.
That's right.
Having a lot of fun with that. That airs Monday evenings, Eastern, 8 to 10 p.m. Okay. I love Eyes on Cinema. I would say that that's one of my favorite podcasts, YouTube channels.
Is this Wendell Smith's Colonel Wendell? No, is that right?
Eyes on Cinema, EOC, it's called.
Oh, I see.
Because he's just out there putting information that's very much, old news programs and interviews. And
I've seen some of those videos. They put some really cool stuff and so informational, and you're not going to really find it anywhere else. So it's a great YouTube channel.
Yeah, there's a huge glut of, everyone's got a podcast these days.
Yeah. They play old interviews though on there, right? Like, if I'm correct, right? With Travis Walton, there'll be old interviews with people and old videos about UFOs and stuff that you just can't find anymore.
Yeah, I absolutely think that's one of my favorite, but
they're really good.
And I think the future, especially in relationship to our subject of ufology and all the aspects, I really do believe that with podcasts, the people on the ground, the people that the subject matters to, are not afraid to share what is out there and get it to the people. And so no more is it just a broadcast network or a cable news network. You can hear it from whoever you want to hear it from, and get as much information as you can to make your own decision. So I think podcasts are a way of the future. It's the way for the common person like me and CJ and you, of course, to just share our thoughts about this important subject. So I really am happy that
because the media is not covering it. Let's face it.
No. And so, it's funny that you talk about that. So let me ask you this. So what are your thoughts about this recent Wall Street Journal article about, ufology and this whole idea that it was a myth created by the Air Force to advance or cover protect their advanced and secret technologies. What's your thought about, did you read the article?
No, but I'm aware of it.
What's your opinion and thought about that?
I think it's, kind of on the fence about it. It's disinformation in some ways with kernels of truth in it. The UFO phenomena is not a myth. It is not something created by the Air Force. That's ridiculous. It's absurd. It's easily, demonstrably debunked. I mean, there's absolutely no way that that's true.
But you know what it creates is a fatigue, like a phenomenon fatigue, I notice, where there's just so much that you can't tune it all in.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult now for people, particularly currently, to sort through all these muddy waters and really try to get to the truth. I think
just how absurd the fact that it was created by the Air Force in 86, 87, 88, 89 in the bar, and that it was a psyop, and we did it so that we could. It's
well, and also that it's a psyop that they're performing on a live nuclear base. That to me is and they don't tell anyone at the nuclear facility.
So this is why I didn't even bother to read it. It's not true.
Yeah, it's just not true. Like mean, it just
there's people out there who will believe everything that the national media will say, especially somebody like Wall Street Journal. So it definitely is trying to throw.
Well, this is exactly the problem, isn't it?
Right. It is.
This is something I think that our intelligence agencies have taken advantage of.
Right.
Like, okay, people are reporting UFOs because we do know that there's advanced aircraft out there. Very likely reverse engineering of, things like the Roswell craft and the many others.
Right.
But as far as I'm concerned, disclosure is very tightly controlled. We're never going to see truth and transparency. Unless, here's the way I look at it, unless and until our intelligence agencies, the highest levels of the military, I think there are good people within government, but some, no, until they're willing to admit to the validity of the Roswell crash or the Malmstrom incident in 1967, I think it was, or the Capitol flyover, 1952.
You got pictures and videos of that.
If you can even talk to us about that, then maybe I'll listen to what you have to say. But until and unless you do, why should I give one iota what you have to say about what's going on here? You're not trustworthy.
The irony of it, and I'm not the one who first postulated this. I think I actually heard it on a Linda Moulton Howe show. But I believe, along with what she was saying, whoever said it before her, that actually disclosure occurred in Roswell on July 8th, 1947, by our armed services. Right. I think we disclosed that aliens and alien craft were real by saying that we have recovered a flying disc.
Yeah, and but boy, they backpedaled that fast, didn't they?
Think about it. The 509th, the premier, bomber group, all nuclear bomb, these people knew exactly what they were doing, exactly who it is. So they, like you said, they're the ones who disclose it. And so disclosure actually happened that day. They were being honest. I remember in the 40s and 50s, they were a little loosey about what it really was until they tightened up everything and closed the hatch. But they're the ones who actually disclosed. It's just that when they started pulling it back and then the conspiracy theory started, and then here we are today, again, with this Wall Street Journal article, trying to do the same thing to put the toothpaste back in the tube, the genie back in the bottle.
It's like that article I wrote, the swamp gas journalism started right away.
That's exactly right.
This is a weather balloon. Like they were the minute there were UFOs.
Yeah. Is it the head of intelligence of an army base, Jesse Marcel, isn't going to recognize a weather balloon?
Or a colonel. How about the colonel? How about any of those people? They knew exactly what it was. So the point is disclosure, not my first thing. I heard it on Linda Moulton Howe years ago. But disclosure occurred when the United States Army Air Force said, we have recovered a flying disc. Your paragraph.
If they had not retracted that newspaper story, it would have been a different world.
And by the way, I think their time is coming. I think it's going to come.
You can't hide the truth forever.
Right. So having said that, this is another article I want your thoughts on. So what do you think about the 2004 Tic Tac event being revealed that it's a Lockheed Martin technology and not a UFO or a UAP? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, speaking with people like Michael Schratt and James Goodall, basically, I'd already kind of come to that conclusion. I asked my favorite contactee, Dolly Safran, about that because she's got a direct communication with the ETs, and they're like, no, it's not ours. She's really my go-to gal because she's been able to fill in a lot of the blanks, my own questions about what's going on here. So that is my assessment. It's not really my focus of research. I focus mostly on people who've had direct contact with, as I said, what I believe to be, or actually no, because I've had my own experiences, ET. So I think there's little doubt.
You don't think it's Lockheed Martin? You think they're just using that as a further?
I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, you're not sure?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you because that's not really my area of expertise. But I don't think it's ET.
Right.
So
it's just some sort of advance, maybe a reverse engineering of maybe some technology that they knew about, and this is what they were able to create, type of thing.
Precisely. Yeah. With the amount of whistleblowers we have coming out who've been involved in reverse engineering, and frankly, eyewitnesses as well who see stuff that's clearly not ET because it's got all these, wires coming out of it or pipes and there's humans inside. There's a good number of cases which, these craft are landing, and it's clearly not ET.
Right. So let me ask you the other flip side of that coin, because I think this is a very critical point. So if our federal government, vis-a-vis our aerospace contractors and others, have been able to develop through reverse engineering or whatever, these type of craft that can do that type of performance that seems to be unrealistic, don't you think it's not only a crying shame, but it may even be somewhat of a crime that they haven't shared that technology with the rest of us in the sake for the defense of the country? There's got to be these applications. I mean, because think about all those people who went up on rockets, the Challenger people, the Apollo people, all those other
crying shame.
Well, I mean, if we have gravitic technology that we had already reverse engineered and created and put it in crafts, we didn't even need to waste our money or time on any of those things. That's one thing. But on the same token, if they've created this type of technology, they probably have other things that have given them the ability to probably go out into space that we may not even know about, vis-a-vis a secret space program or other types of behaviors. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's a logical conclusion. Again, not my area of expertise, but I've certainly talked to some whistleblowers myself who have told me astounding stories in that regard, their own experiences. I mean, one guy was literally on his deathbed in a hospital and wanted someone to talk to, wanted to do his part for disclosure, and told me how he was a subcontractor at Edwards Air Force Base back in the Reagan era, and saw a quote UFO in a hangar while he's walking with his employer. His employer freaked out, said, "You weren't supposed to see that. Shut up. I'm never going to talk about it." He saw a tiny little craft with nothing, silver smooth, levitating, making a humming noise. And later he did talk to his employer, who wanted him to do another job. And he's like, "I'm not doing it for you, not until you tell me what we saw." They had a huge argument over it, and finally he's like, "Okay, I'll tell you, but you can never tell anybody." And he didn't, not until right before he died.
Right.
And what an honor to speak with this man. And basically his employer told him that what you saw was not a UFO. It was reverse engineered ET technology using a process of counter-rotating magnets to create a magnetic field outside the craft that propels it in the desired direction. That's all he would say about it. But there's enough whistleblower accounts to, I think, confirm that we absolutely have made great strides in some of this stuff. By no means to the level of what ET can do, who by all accounts are not only thousands of years, or hundreds of thousands, but probably quite a bit more than that,
Right.
at least from what I'm hearing from the contactees.
Right. And the flip side of the coin is that they've sequestered that technology that they've been able to create us to reverse as much as we could do it.
Anyone in the military can tell you that.
Well, they sequestered it, and all the things that it could have been done for mankind and people in the world, energy, just
healing.
So I mean, well, and then they're doing it for our sake. They're doing it for our well-being. They're doing it because they're protecting us. They're doing it because we can't understand. They're doing it because the war effort is the most significant things. That is not the way we should focus our energy. And
I don't believe it's true either.
I think if people focus their energy on reaching out, treating people the way you would want to be treated, and going in it from that particular aspect, and then sharing those technologies, I think it's a crying shame. And I think in some cases,
it's a crime.
It's a crime. It's criminal.
And so, allow love and truth to guide your actions.
Right. You would think.
100%. But this is my opinion, the driving force behind, the cover up is greed.
And
power,
fear.
control.
And fear. Yeah, that's what they use.
So
I agree. I totally think that this idea of control, this idea of fear, and then just this idea of pride or ego, or we're the center of the universe or whatever, for the sake of what? That's the thing. For the sake of what? The converse of that is what we do for everybody, what we do for each other, how we treat. I mean, it's ludicrous. Anyway, so let me ask you this last type of technical question. So recently, the Chinese have been accused of being the perpetrators of the drone incidences, in part in New Jersey, and of course over Langley Air Force Base, because they have been able to also either create from their own or partial reverse technology of these drones and these drone incursions. What's your thoughts on that, if you have any?
Yeah, well, I don't think they're ET by any means. And from the people I've talked to, like James Goodall and Dolly Safran, who does have a military background and connections there, or Cheryl Costa, another researcher I really admire, don't think that that's ET by any means. Probably a foreign country, perhaps our own, creating, confusion and fear, and perhaps, and I'm really dismayed about this, a upcoming false flag operation, painting the ETs as invaders, which is ludicrous when you consider the fact that.
But to what end?
Yeah, I'm speculating here, but this is definitely the buzz in the UFO community that a false flag to exterminate segments of our population or large amounts. This is you can go levels and levels in here and down rabbit holes, but I'm very concerned about how this whole subject is being handled.
Well, when you have these overt articles from the Wall Street Journal that said that's myth and the Tic Tac thing is Lockheed Martin and these drones are Chinese, they're painting a picture and a narrative, right? So they're either disinformation or they're trying to prepare for something else, whether it's a false flag or, again, who knows, but it's just really, really concerning that these things are happening now in all of these aspects. That not only that, but that these countries, China, Russia, us, have the ability and technologies that they've even been able to create and develop. They could do other more significant things for the planet, mankind, and to move us into a new future and a new way of evolvement. But they don't.
They're not doing it. No, I agree.
They settle for fear. They settle for control, and they settle for power-based mentality.
Well, let's face it. Actions speak louder than words, and their history on this subject is vile. It's heinous. It's not good. I don't trust them, and I've got every reason in the world not to, even beyond what's going on in the UFO subject. Right. I don't think the highest levels of the military, the one percenters, the cabal, call them what you want, have our best interests in mind.
They
Yeah.
do not.
So I hate to say it, and I'm not a doom and gloomer, but we got to face the facts. Our best tool with this is to really educate ourselves what's going on here.
Yeah.
And getting the truth out about the ET presence, I think, can do wonders for people, because
Right. So,
these are people who are very advanced, not only
right. And,
technologically, but psychically, ethically, morally. We're the ones who are committing genocide.
right.
Lying, cheating, stealing, corruption. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous how humans behave. And the number one message from ETs has always been that. If you're
Yeah.
taken on board and they give you any communication at all, it's, why are you messing around with nuclear weapons and power?
Right.
Greed and corruption is choking your society.
Right.
You're polluting your planet, chopping down the forests.
Mhm.
What are you doing? You're
And
destroying
maybe
your
that's part of the awareness plan too.
It's one of the main reasons people are being taken on board.
Right.
I mean, it is, because it's
Right.
demonstrably
That's
true.
the messages they bring back.
Right.
If
So,
you
you know,
analyze the onboarding encounter experience,
right.
it's, while it is scary for a lot of people, it's very much for our benefit. Unequivocally, you can absolutely analyze the events and see this is for our good, what they're trying to do. I'm very vehement about this.
Right.
Because
So having said it, that's a good point. So if non-human intelligence, extraterrestrial, crypto-terrestrial beings are real, who are they? And so, and then where do they come from? And then why do you think they are here on planet Earth and what they're doing with mankind? So I know I asked that. So if they're real, are they non-human, are they extraterrestrial, as you said? Are they crypto-terrestrial beings? Who are they and where do they come from?
$1 million question, isn't it? And I think we finally got a really good handle on this. I don't even like that word phenomena. Let's call it what it is. Extraterrestrial. I think
Okay.
the evidence of that is outstanding. If we could just get our hands on that Roswell craft and the bodies and all the others, all bets are off. Our governments certainly know what this is. Why are they here? I think the onboard cases speak volumes about it very plainly and clearly. Healing, people are taken on board. 20, 30, 40% of these onboard experiences involve some form of healing. People are given loads of information about their personal life or about the state of the world. They will take you down to the engine room. Can't tell you how many cases I've got of this, where ETs will explain in detail how they basically power their craft, almost always along the lines of harnessing the electrogravitic magnetic field lines of our planet, free energy, anti-gravity, something along that. They will they'll give you a tour of the craft. This is for people who are not, panicking to death and end up having wasting time, like, I don't want to look at this anymore. These are people who've moved a little bit past that, which most contactees at some point will.
Right.
They'll take you to the side of the craft or the top, and they'll turn the wall transparent, show you the Earth down below, a star field, other planets, the moon. They will take you up to the control room, the helm, call it what you will, and explain this is how we fly our craft. It's always through psychic abilities. Brent Cameron's book, Sky Pilot, highly recommended.
Very good book.
Dolly Saffron, we delve deep in this in the book Symmetry. The craft themselves are embodied. They are, as we would think of it, alive. This was something that so many contactees had told me, which I never quite fully understood until I spoke with Dolly, and she really answered a lot of these questions for me. But they'll sit you in the darn seat and let you fly it. And of course, the messages that people get, we've already talked about. Another obvious effort by the ETs is to wake us up to our own psychic abilities. Every contactee, almost without exception, Susan Alloway will verify this, has amazing psychic abilities. I don't think that's any coincidence. So that's why I think we can say with pretty good certainty what the quote ET agenda is.
So I just want to make sure. So who do you think they are?
I think they're people very much like us.
Okay.
I call them people too. I use the word people usually.
So they're beings, and
Yeah.
do they
Are they
represent us?
interdimensional? Absolutely, but we are too.
Right.
Are they time travelers? Not from the future, but they
Right.
can do things with time
Right.
that are difficult to understand, certainly. Do they come from other planets? Yes.
Right.
And we have, if you scour the UFO literature, another researcher I like is Albert Rosales. His multi-volume set, The Humanoids,
Right.
has probably 100, 200 cases of people who've been to other planets. Dolly Saffron, they took her to their planet in the Orion system. Orion comes up quite frequently.
Right.
So I think that's, they're not always very forthcoming as to where they come from for obvious reasons.
So do you feel, do you feel you can trust the information coming from them? I'm often wondering, like, how much can we trust? How much of what the messages that people like myself are getting can you trust? And what makes you feel you can trust the messages that they're sending or giving to experiencers?
Well, I think here on Earth, people lie to each other all the time.
Yep.
We live steeped in deception here on this planet. Our leaders are incredibly deceptive. So when we have people coming to us, I think our automatic go-to is like, well, stranger danger,
Right.
And yes,
Super stranger, real far stranger.
And having had my own onboard experience and talked to ETs face to face, I can tell you it was the most wonderful, benevolent, nurturing experience of my life. Off the charts, fantastic. And most of the people I've talked to start out with a lot of fear and questions and eventually move towards that. 80, 90%. There are some who again shut down, like, I don't like this. I feel like I have no control. I just don't want to deal with this. It's too difficult. Totally understandable. But yeah, I think we absolutely, I trust them far more than our own governments.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I think that we absolutely have to recognize how close our relationship is to ETs. It's much closer than people realize. They've been around for a very long time, millennia, since recorded history likely, or before that. But some look just like us. 100% look human. That raises all kinds of implications and questions.
It does.
And if Greys are interbreeding with us, Greys have told people, we are just like you. We are human. What we're looking at is ancestry, not different species.
Right.
It's pure ancestral differences.
Right.
They're not that different from us.
Right. And you can see the diversity and how humans look on our planet or humanoids. So you can imagine the diversity if millions or billions of years ago, the first humanoid and it's spread out around a galaxy or a universe, and how the diversity might be in that regards.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's good news for humanity. It's really nice to know that, I mean, it's absurd to think we're alone. There's just no way if you just go outside, but the evidence is showing us very clearly we're not.
Right.
And it's very clear to me that they're not here to hurt, harm, take over, or anything like that. And this is difficult for some people, and I get some pushback on this because some people are reporting these horrific experiences.
Yeah.
And I've researched them, and I'm like, well, this guy was at a military base. What's going on here?
Yeah.
My labs is a big problem in this field.
Yeah.
And I hate that subject because it's so negative, but it's clear to me that some of the experiences people are having that are horrific are not ET. I'm going to underline that.
Right.
It's not them doing it.
Right.
So we have to be very careful here.
So one of the things, you bring up a good point, because I really think that, for this last number of minutes that we have, you wrote the book Cemetery and A True UFO Adventure. Probably one of the best books that I've read, and probably one of the most revealing about the subject of Dolly and her own experiences. And there's some pretty significant stuff in here. This is some pretty eye-opening stuff. But one thing I would like to first introduce is the beginning of the book. You say something that is consistent with our show, which I thought is really cool. It says the entire world is on the verge of a massive paradigm shift that will change everything for everyone. They're on the precipice. So I thought that was a really cool thing that you said. So that whole idea about paradigm shifts, precipice, awakening, it just seems to me that we're moving towards that. But having said that, I would like to just ask you the last number of questions as it relates to your book, Cemetery. Great book. I probably have about 10 pages left, and it's been a fascinating book, but oh my gosh, the stuff that Dolly has experienced in her life. And then the thing that's even more significant to me, and a lot of people don't know this, we're not talking about in an altered state. There was part of that. We're not talking about in a dream. We're not talking about missing time. There's that too in the book. But we're talking about events that actually she recalled, total recall, in the different adventures that she had and different things that she's done over her life. So I just thought, I mean, it has to be what you just said earlier. It has to be this idea that awareness is coming, and awareness is, and it's trying to get to everybody so that we either wake up and smell the coffee so that we can all evolve together. So if you don't mind, the book is a good book, and it talks about her interaction and how the book is characterized as being someone who connects in the book, who connects all the dots you wrote. It fills in all the blanks and tells the story of her interaction with the beings that have occurred throughout her life. So just a quick, and I don't think you can do that. The other thing is I think it would be great to have Dolly on the show if she'd even be considered of having that, because I'd love to hear her perspective. So maybe you can ask her for us. But tell us what about the book.
Yeah, well, Dolly reached out to me. She really wanted to tell her story after seeing how badly misrepresented the subject was, and had a difficult time. Finally, the ETs actually referred her to me. They said, this is a guy you should check out, which was like, wow. Yeah, that was amazing to me.
Wow.
And of course, I called her back and soon realized that this was a real one. You know, she absolutely had a sterling resume. She has the evidence to back it up. She has corroborating witnesses. She opened up her medical records, which show absolute undeniable evidence of healing interventions and implants and more. She has photographic evidence, really good photographic evidence, and it's a rare contactee who has anything like that. And I became a participant. I seen the UFOs myself and eventually was pulled on board. I'm just going to say that. Dolly's story is.
What did you just say?
I had an onboard experience with her craft. Met the ETs she is writing about.
Can you tell us
that
about
book was published?
When was that?
That was 2022.
So not too long ago.
No, it was the best experience of my life. But
Wow.
her story is by far the most extensive I've ever had the privilege to investigate and really even read about, which is kind of saying a lot when you think of people like Betty Andreasen or Jim Sparks or a number of people out there whose stories are quite extensive. She's a generational contactee. Her father had major experiences. From a very young age, she had experiences that her whole family can verify. And really around age 14, she was like wondering what is going on with me. I'm not going to have missing time again. This is too disorienting, and I really need to know what's going on. Had a UFO come down over her house in 1973 in Florida and saw, this craft, little portholes, two grays looking down at her. Her room fills with light, and boom, she's waking up, and it's the next morning. She's like, that's it. Remember, she was already having some recall of being on board, sat down and meditated and recalled this hours-long experience where they brought her on board. They were very happy. They're like, you're going to remember this. This is really good news. Do you remember us? And she did. She's had contact with a tall gray she calls Mama, who is very excited about her, taking this step forward. And it was very difficult for Dolly. She threw up. I've heard that from a number of people, but they gave her a tour of the craft. The craft itself started speaking to her. She calls it Talata. They gave her the whole tour of the craft, counseled her, had her go up to the helm, what they call the place of movement.
All conscious. She was all conscious during this time, right?
Fully conscious.
Wow.
Right. And went to the planet Saturn. When I heard that, I was thrilled because I had just interviewed a gentleman, Joe Gardner. Same thing. He was, I think, 12 when it happened. She's 14. Well, a lot of people don't wake up to this until they're midlife.
Right.
But she did at age 14. And from that encounter onwards, was visited on the average twice a week, once or twice a week. And she asked them, they asked her, how can we help you? What do you want to do? And she said, on a lark, kind of. She's like, I really like to learn how to fly this craft. And they said, we can do that. It will take a lot of training. You have to be very serious about this. And it did. 4 years of training, twice a week, hours at a time, longer. But at age 18 or 19, she took her first solo flight. And since then,
I just want to hear I want people to hear what you're saying. You're saying, again, alive, she always wanted to fly. The person that you said, Talata, he was right. The ship. That's how he embodied himself, right? Because it was alive, and he was with her and helped train her and mentor her to fly. Yep. And then she actually got to fly all the way to wherever she went, and then she even dropped herself off back home, and then sat in her room where she couldn't sleep because of this incredible experience. I mean, that's just amazing.
It is, and it's amazing. It was so lovely to speak to her,
right?
Because she's 100% on the up and up.
Right.
This is a woman who is a registered nurse, retired, but worked for the Department of Defense, and a zookeeper, a lifeguard. Worked as in the government, has a sterling resume is what I'm trying to say here. But absolutely worked so closely with the ETs and was there when people were being pulled on board and counseled and examined and healed and so forth.
And she counseled others too.
Oh yeah. Yes, because people have a difficult time often when they're taken on board, understandably.
Yeah. One of the things I thought was really cool, and this is another part of the book, there's many. So she talks a lot about the Dyson, or you do, spheres that they were able to fly to, these artificially constructed structures or planets that are used to house or homeworlds, beings and extraterrestrials. I thought that was incredible that she was able to go out and see them. And now the reason why I even mention it is that's ironic, and they probably have always been able to do it. But the Webb, telescope, the thing that recently in the news are these big Dyson type sphere structures. They believe they have these mini suns that look like they're machines, or they have these things that are moving through space that they're not sure what they are. And so in your book, she mentions these as being real. I mean, you would imagine too, if there's advanced beings and the universe is populated, that we're everywhere. And if we're advanced, we can create all kinds of things. And those artificial structures are not something necessarily unusual or uncommon. But I like that she included the other thing that she did when you called it is this idea about what we were talking about with you, your somewhat autobiographic book about out-of-body experiences. But the one thing she mentions, and I thought was really cool, she called it swimming. In your book, you call it swimming, and what it meant that she was an out-of-body and she went to the higher astral realm, and she actually went to that place she called the energy pool, or the light that many people talk about in near-death experiences. Can you just talk about that for a bit?
Yeah, and this is true in other people's accounts where there's this spiritual aspect that is not covered in depth. It's one of the reasons I really enjoyed speaking with Dolly, because she is very psychically on in tune with all of this, and the ETs are too. The things that ETs do that we consider technological often is actual psychic ability, levitation and moving through walls and all of these sort of things, telepathy certainly. And
Right.
people will describe these kinds of experiences. Betty Andreasson did
Right.
in very clear detail. It's exactly that sort of thing. They're
Right.
doing their best to wake us up to our own natural abilities. Don't like the word paranormal. It's a misnomer. This is something we can all do. And just think how much this world would change if we all became telepathic. So yeah, that
Right.
is a big part of Dolly's story. That's why I'm
Right.
so excited about the sequel I'm working on right now.
Way
Because
cool.
this, Symmetry was largely an adventure story, her experiences with
Right.
some of the ET knowledge. But we're going to
Right.
concentrate much more on the things she learned from the ETs, as well as a bunch of cool experiences she had that we couldn't fit in the book, or she frankly just, didn't tell me because it's a lifetime of experiences.
Right.
It's amazing how much, I would be researching a case and I'd turn to her. I'm like, I don't suppose you've experienced this or that. And she's like, well, actually, yeah. Now that you mention it, this or that happened. And so
Right.
there's, this is true with any time you interview someone, they often remember new details.
Right.
But her story has never changed. It just, more details come to it.
Right.
It's
Sure.
her account. I'm so glad she decided to step forward because I know there are others out there like her. I've talked to a few who are what I would call fully conscious contactees, but the vast majority of people are not. They have some recall, but not to the extent that some people do.
Right.
And it's a treat when you get to talk to some of these people.
It would really be cool to read your next book. Well, I think that that's a good way for us to end our conversation, in that it really is about who we are and who our essence is, and what the ETs, are trying for us to become aware and open. And to me, I know that you don't like the word phenomena because you said, but if there is a phenomena, we're the phenomena. It's us and who we are and how we act and what we're going to become. And I think that that's really what we should focus on. So, Preston, we really appreciate you coming
Thank
up.
you.
I'm sorry that we even have to stop now. I had like 7 more questions.
It's just a pause, Richard. It's just a pause in the conversation. I have a feeling Preston will visit us again in the future if we're so lucky, but
So,
let's consider it a pause.
Preston, is there anything that you'd like to say before we go? I want to make sure that everybody sees all of your contact information. We're going to make sure that they have all that. That's
We'll
all
make
your
sure it's
social.
in the description below the podcast as well.
So, Preston, thanks. Anything before we go? Anything we'd like to say or anything? Closing thoughts?
Yeah. I would just say what I mentioned earlier, love and truth guide your actions. Move past fear. If you can do that, it will help you in every level of your life. Don't believe me. Do your own research. It really behooves each and every single one of us to do our own research. If you're skeptical of UFOs, I challenge you to do what I did. Ask your family, friends, and coworkers, people you love and trust, have they had an experience? I can bet you're going to get a huge shock, because this is far more common than people realize. I really appreciate you guys having me on, because this is such an important subject. People deserve to know the truth about it. This is why I'm doing my research, and why you can find my books on Amazon. You can, I have a website, just punch my name. It'll take you there. I've got, of course, my YouTube channel, my Lightgate podcast that I do with Dolly Saffron. We do Q&As. Those are very popular. So people always have questions about this. But yeah, thanks, you guys. The subject, I can't emphasize enough how important it is.
Yeah.
We've got to end this cover up. Don't look to our government for answers.
No.
They are liars. I hate to say it so vehemently, but
it's the truth.
Like I said, actions speak louder than words.
Absolutely.
Their own fault. I didn't do it. They were the ones who lied.
True. Amen, brother. But yeah, I agree 100%. That's why the whole topic of disclosure is like, I don't care what the government tells me, because
Yeah.
I'm not
Why
going to
would I
believe.
need a liar to tell me what's
Yeah,
true?
even if they tell you the truth, how are you going to believe that? How are you going to believe anything that comes out? So it's all for
We got
a
to do our
reason.
own research, every
Me
one of
too.
us.
We really do.
So make sure that we have you on the next time when you're going to do the book part 2. So we want to read that, but we want to have you back and let us talk again about what's happening in Preston's world. Okay.
I'd be honored. Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you, Richard.
Thank you, Preston, for your time. We're going to go to our last 5-minute segment, Bill. So I think I'm going to start with you, if that's okay, CJ.
Sure. Yeah.
Closing thoughts or whatever.
Yeah. Look, it's obviously we're just starting a conversation with this radio show here. We're just getting started. It's our 2nd episode, and there's just so much to take in. And I just can't imagine a better start than, Preston. I would put him up there with, all the big guys, Mac and all those guys. Okay, we can go too much. Yeah, Jacobs, Mac, and Hopkins, and I put him right up there. So if you're an experiencer out there, all I can say is you got to read these books. Start educating yourself, like Preston's talking about. And, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks, because we got another great guest lined up. So be sure to come back for that. And I'll just refer back to you, Richard. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to make sure that please, Bill's going to put up our email address. Please let us know how we're doing. Please give us comments on the content of the show. If we got something wrong, please tell us, so that we can do it right. If you have suggestions about guests, if you have subjects, or you think we need to know something that would be good for our show, please do that. So it's very important that you're a part of this show. And the last thing for me is I just want to have a final thought, and I'm going to put it up because I think it's a very important thought. A guy by the name of Rumi, 13th century prophet, teacher. And I thought this was really cool because it's all for all those that you and I and Preston are talking about, and in terms of our awareness and waking up to who we are spiritually. And he said, I have lived on the tip of insanity. That's our life, by the way. Wanting to know reasons, knocking on the door to try to figure it out right. It opens. I've been knocking from the inside. That's where the answers are.
Yeah, you're already
inside
in the room.
of you. Okay, CJ. Hey, till next time.
Till next time. Good to see your face, man. And I'll see you soon. I'll be talking to you online.
All right.
Bye. Thanks, Bill. Skywatcher.
Bill.
Bye.